Okay, we are live, but we gotta let it breathe just for a moment here while we bring on our Facebook peoples. Get the whole MHH tribe under one tent. You know how it goes. And we're gonna rock and roll. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me is my fellow football priest. You know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, we got some weird news, whatever it was, yesterday that former Falcons, I think he was a third round pick, right,
Yep.
Scott? Wasn't he a third rounder? And former starter in Atlanta, Desmond Ridder, was going to come try out during rookie minicamp. But apparently there's been a conflicting report that says today, or maybe not a conflicting report, but an update, he's not coming. What's the story, brother?
Yeah, apparently, according to Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post, Ritter had a scheduling conflict, and that's why he's not coming to Broncos rookie minicamp, which started today. Practice will start tomorrow and ramp up over the weekend. It lasts until Sunday. Ritter was supposed to be there for a tryout, Chad, maybe to be the third quarterback behind Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham, but now he changed his mind. So, hasta la vista.
Dude, honestly, I don't blame him. Like, yeah, beggars can't be choosers. There's that. So that's part of the arithmetic here if you're Desmond Ritter's reps and all that. But it's a pretty stable quarterback room in Denver. And they probably go, look, Desmond, best case you last through camp, and then it's going to be the practice squad rigmarole at this team because Bo Nix is a lock. Peyton loves Stidham. They just brought him back. And Ellinger, by the way, isn't exactly chopped liver. He's got some good experience. So I don't blame him. But from the moment I heard the news, Zach, I was going, why? Why are the Broncos even bothering to bring him in? As Mr. Producer says here, Desmond Ridder, the guy 24 months ago, Falcons former head coach Arthur Smith said, yeah, that's our guy. And what's crazy, Zach, is he was the second quarterback taken in that particular draft. So kind of a lean year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I saw him in Atlanta and in Vegas, I wasn't that impressed, Chad. He actually came in for a relief appearance in week 12, I think it was, against the Broncos last season when Gardner Minshew got hurt. So it's no skin off the Broncos' nose. I think Desmond Ridder at one time was an Uber Eats driver, if I remember correctly. So, again, the Broncos really aren't losing anything here. I think they're going to roll forward with Nix, Stidham, and Ellinger.
But what do you think that's about before we start grabbing some super chats? Why do you think the Broncos even were curious to bring him in?
I think Sean Payton loves competition that much, Chad, and I don't know that Sam Ellinger tickles his fancy like Zach Wilson did, quite frankly, as the third string quarterback. So maybe he feels like he can raise the floor of that room. And at minimum, Desmond Ritter's not going to start anymore in the NFL. He's probably not going to even be a number two. But as a number three, you could do a lot worse. So I think that's Sean Payton's thought process.
We got David Youngkin jumping in with the first super chat of the night, 2 in a row. Thank you, brother. Before we even went live, we love you. He says chemistry will be the big thing. Broncos had to be aggressive on offense and defense have to take the West. So what David's talking about, and thank you, brother, is the main headline around tonight's show, which is basically have the Broncos. So I'll just ask you, Zach. Here's the main topic, and I'll pose it as the question that it is. Have the Broncos done enough this offseason, piggybacking off what they did 2024, to finally dethrone the Chiefs? That's what David's getting at.
I mean, 1v1, yeah, because they should have beaten them in Kansas City last season, Chad. I'm sorry. They beat the backups, but they should have went 2-0 against them. But it's not so much about combating Patrick Mahomes and everything else. It's about matching their win record. And by doing that, you got to take down the other teams in the AFC, the Baltimores, the Buffaloes, the Cincinnatis. So the question kind of pertains to that as well. We saw how the Broncos got blown out in their playoff game against Buffalo. It wasn't even competitive, Chad, except for after the first touchdown. But did they do enough to rectify those issues? What were those issues in that game? Couldn't stop the run, couldn't run the ball, couldn't really get anything going. They brought back DJ Jones. They brought in Savion Jones. They brought in Jahdae Barron. They brought in RJ Harvey. They fix both of those issues. So in that sense, I think the Broncos are going to win more football games, and they're going to be in a position to dethrone the Chiefs by taking the West.
It's interesting. We're going to continue to talk about it. And the reason it became even a topic for tonight's podcast is it was a report card by, I'm going to botch his name, dude, Matt Verderame at SI National. doing an AFC West offseason report card. And I'll tell you, first of all, the headline was AFC West offseason report card, Broncos closing in on Chiefs. I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. We'll see if we might want to cover that from the team angle. He gave the Chiefs offseason a. Let me find this here. He gave the Chiefs. Let me just click to the friggin' article. He gave the Chiefs offseason a B. Zach. He gave the Raiders a C plus. Gave the Chargers a D, and the Broncos, the best grade of the division, a B plus. And within his analysis, he doesn't really speak to how he justifies the headline of Broncos closing the gap on the Chiefs, but it is in the headline. And I got to tell you that I concur. I think the offseason additions, I mean, what's up, Zeus? So good to see you, big dog. How are you?
Thank you, Stu.
Great to see Zeus McPeak, the first
Yes,
face etched on the MHH Mount Rushmore, in the house right now. Hope you're doing well, big dog. But Zach, a lot of fans have kind of had some misgivings on whether the Broncos have done enough this offseason, specifically to build the nest around Bo Nix. And I got to tell you that just what they did on defense, you know, we're knocking on wood that Dre Greenlaw, that all pans out the way we hope it will with this quad and all that. But him, Hufanga, Singleton coming back, Barron being added to the mix, that defense, there's a reason why national media is projecting them on paper to be the number one defense in the NFL. And then on offense, dude, you got a guy to work the middle in Evan Ingram, a chain mover, a mismatch nightmare, a guy that takes attention off of Cortland Sutton. And then you brought in a guy who I believe can be a bona fide RB1. And what's his competition in Denver? He's going to be your starter. And then plus maybe even a guy in Pat Bryant. So it's not like they didn't do anything to help Bo Nix directly, and then obviously indirectly with bolstering the defense. Because last thing, Zach, they say that a run game, one of the cliches, a running game is a quarterback's best friend. And there's truth to how important that is, obviously, for a quarterback. But I would argue that a defense, an elite defense, is an even better, bigger blessing.
I think Verderame was a little harsh with some of his grades. I feel like, and David Youngkin, 499 Super, thank you so much, David. He says Broncos have to be aggressive on offense and defense to take the West, which is true. But I thought the Chargers had a nice draft, Chad. I thought the Raiders had a nice draft. I thought every team in the West kind of got better. But the demarcation line was free agency. And you mentioned Evan Ingram, Hufanga, Greenlaw. They brought back DJ Jones. They really kept the core of the team together, and they got a lot better on paper. So if they should have beaten them in Arrowhead, Chad, they beat them in Denver. They made the playoffs at 10-7. If they got better from that, then logic would dictate that they can go toe-to-toe with KC in 2025.
We'll continue to spitball this topic as we get through the show tonight. We've also got the Papa Bear who dropped a nice super chat, very kind before we went live. David McElrath, great to see you tonight, brother. Says, good evening, Broncos country. Chad, Zach, Deacon Scott, hashtag 13-4. I'm not going to make the same joke, but I want to. Anchorman. Let's go, Bo. God bless the USA. Buckham times 3. MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. And then Zach, he's opining with excitement, I'm sure. Rookie minicamp starts tomorrow, dude. We got the press release from the team today talking about the schedule and when coaches and players will be available. So finally.
Yeah, finally. We'll hear from Sean Payton on Saturday. There'll be an open locker room, so we'll hear from some of the rookies on Saturday as well. Broncos football is back in some capacity.
We were hoping it would be even spicier with the Desmond Ridder workout, but dadgummit, wasn't meant to be. Sam Bam, bro, thank you for the very generous super chat, dude. This time of year especially, like, I mean, we're sitting here in a week into May, and, you know, fans are kind of like, hey, the bulk of fans, not the hardcore freakazoids like you guys, like us. You know, we're all the same. But, you know, the kind of surface fans that pop in and out, they're like, wake me up when training camp rolls around. And obviously that's not how we roll here. Sam Bam says, evening, guys. Looking forward to the schedule being released next Wednesday. True. Something else to look forward to. I have a sneaky feeling the Broncos will be the opener against the Eagles. What's next in the offseason in terms of OTAs and mini camps? Go Broncos. Yeah, that will be interesting. We'll see. We'll see if that ends up coming out in the wash like that. As far as Broncos Eagles, Zach, but there's a rumor that it's going to be Broncos Jets. I forget the week. What week?
Week 6.
Week 6.
Yeah.
We'll see. in London, by the way, in London, not in Germany, like we heard from the team that the team was hoping for. But as far as the schedule, real quick, I'll just run you through it. I mean, basically, you got rookie minicamp this weekend. Then you've got organized team activities May 27th through the 29th. And then they follow that up again June 3rd through the 5th. Then they have their mandatory minicamp June 10th through the 12th. And then, boys and girls, we hit the dreaded NFL summer desert.
Yeah, so we have to really enjoy any crumbs of football we can get in the meantime, Sam, and we're going to get some this weekend, so definitely exciting.
Great to see the Ronk in the house, checking in on Facebook. Good evening, Chad and Zach on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. I love it, dude. Great to see you, pal. Taylor Christensen also jumping in on Super Chat. Taking the West back should be the number one goal. Yeah, I mean, if you can take back the West, that almost de facto makes you the best team in the AFC, because if you vanquish the Chiefs, who have been the number one team in the AFC for the better part of the past decade, really, who do you got to worry about? But you got the Buffalo Bills, you got the Baltimore Ravens. So, but at least also, Zach, what's the whole point of taking the West and regaining the divisional crown? It's a guaranteed punch in your ticket to the playoffs, regardless of record. Even though there were some rumors that some teams, Zach, were interested in trying to change that particular rule, I think that's a traditional standard that should stand the test of time. Like, that should not be changed.
You also have the Bengals as a threat in the AFC who beat the Broncos last season. You have the Chargers in the division who swept the Broncos last season, Chad. So there's more obstacles in the AFC to get through beyond just Kansas City. You have to keep pace with them and then obviously win your head-to-heads and to take the West back. But it could be done for sure.
Jimmy Thielen in the house. What's up, dude, on Facebook? Thank you for being with us tonight. Stars, you demand. Says, only time will tell, but I'm happy about everything. Good to hear, big dog. I'm glad to hear it. I am too. You know, I'm not agonizing over whether or not the Broncos reach taking Pat Bryant in the third or the fourth, or RJ Harvey in the second instead of the third. Casey Nickel also jumping in. What's up, dude? Casey. Great to see you. Long time Super Chat superstar. Also fun dude to have on the podcast. Casey, we should get you back on the pod for a superstar segment and do a little catching up. You know what I'm saying? Let's figure it out, dude. Email me after the show. Let's figure out a Thursday that you can make it. Because 'tis the season. It's the off season. Can it be the season already, says Casey, looking to make it to the meet and greet this year. What? That's a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump for him too, so that's really cool. We'll look forward to that. Once we have the schedule release, we'll be able to start rolling out information on exactly when the meet and greet's going to be. So we look forward to that, Casey. Thanks, pal.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. Schedule comes out next Wednesday. We're not potting that night, but we'll have more information to share with you guys by that Thursday night's pod. But appreciate it again.
Yes, indeed. We got yeah, and don't forget, Casey, shoot me an email. Let's get you on the show, big dog. It's been a minute. Let's do some catch up. We had a blast talking to you the last time you were on. That'd be fun. Big Earn in the house. What's up, bro? Go Broncos country only. Bo Nix, Fo 6. Love seeing it. Phil McLaughlin also loves seeing him. Saying, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. We've signed some rookies, did some extensions. Now, when do we take care of Nik Bonitto, Zach Allen, Franklin Myers, and others? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. Great question, Zach. The rookies who have been signed, break it down. You've been writing up some of those for us. Who's put pen to paper so far?
5 of the 7. The only 2 that haven't are Barron and RJ Harvey. Barron, what I read is he's not going to likely sign before the rookie minicamp, but he has a insurance protection guarantee he signed. So if, God forbid, he gets hurt, he's protected against that. But they only have 2 of their draft picks left unsigned. In terms of extensions, though, Chad, with veteran players like this, George Paton said after the draft, and we haven't heard hide nor hair on anyone, including Cortland Sutton. So they can't take care of everyone. I think Chad and I are in agreement that Zach Allen should be the priority, then maybe Nik Bonitto, and work your way down. But there's a chance the Broncos are going to lose 2 and then bring 2 back here. It's not going to be easy.
The countervailing argument is you got your rookie quarterback, or you've got your quarterback on a rookie contract. So the time to be able to splurge a little bit, and I wouldn't say overspend, but be able to afford really loading up and keeping certain parts of the roster stacked is now. And George Payton said that they want to get that, start looking at this kind of stuff as far as extensions, quote unquote, after the draft. Well, defining that, we basically just have to look back at Broncos history. And since George Payton's been in the front office circa 2021 till present, and those deals come in July and August, and then occasionally in season. I think, Zach, my opinion, order of priority, the way it's probably being viewed internally, Zach Allen, Cortland Sutton, Nik Bonitto. I don't think they're in a hurry to get John Franklin Myers re-signed, and I don't think they're in a hurry to get, Alex Singleton re-signed or Malcolm Roach, for what it's worth. I think you got to get Allen locked in ASAP before the price gets too out of hand, and you got to keep Cortland Sutton, Bo Nix's security blanket and his number one playmaker, in the fold.
That's a good point. We're all banking on one of the extensions or multiple extensions getting done after the draft, like right after, but technically after the draft could mean September, if George Payton wants to play it that way, Chad. But you're right. I think they're going to lock one down in the interim, maybe Zach Allen, and let two, maybe Sutton, maybe JFM, maybe Nik Bonitto, play this season out. And if they can duplicate their success, then they'll give in on an extension.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And specifically, and thank you, Zeus, guys. Hey, hit the like button. It's very helpful to us. Hit that like button while you're with us on YouTube and Facebook. I have, is it agonizing, burrowing doubt? No. But I have moderate misgivings about just paying Nik Bonitto out of hand after his impressive 13.5 sack season and the touchdowns he scored. I mean, it was impressive, and I expect that to kind of be maybe not that level year in, year out, but I think he kind of turned a corner, like he busted through a ceiling, so to speak. However, when we're talking about tunes of many tens of millions of dollars in the going rate for an all-pro edge rusher, I want to see it a little bit more come out in the wash. I want to make sure I'm not getting stung by the one-hit wonder bee. You know what I'm saying? I want to make sure. So I think with Bonitto, plus you have the franchise tag as an option if you needed to. I think they're going to wait on Bonitto. I would wait on Bonitto a little bit, depending on how much pressure, I guess, Zach, is also being exerted from his side of the camp. But the Broncos have the bargaining power. They have the leverage because you've got, on the other side of him, another double-digit sack artist in Jonathan Cooper. You've got a recent, I'll call it premium round draft pick in Jonah Ellis, who produced 5 sacks as a rookie in relief of those two guys. And then you just drafted an edge rusher. We'll see how they end up viewing him. But Q Robinson is a guy, also Savion Jones, not an edge guy, but you've got plenty of pass rush. So Nik Bonitto, hold your horses, focus on doing it again, proving to us that at least, Zach, early signs, right? Like that first quarter of the season, try and get out to a hot start, and we'll take care of you.
And Dondre Tillman, too. He's in the fold, and he's another one that's very competent as a pass rusher. And I can see the Broncos waiting for sure, Chad, and applying that logic, but it's also a risky proposition. Reportedly, according to Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette, Nik Bonitto wants $20 million annually on a contract extension. It's a lot of money, but it's not that much for a premier edge rusher in the NFL. And if you wait, and if he has another season like last year, Chad, he's going to be just maybe out of the Broncos price range. It's going to break the bank. So do you lock him down now and maybe save money in the future and bank on him repeating it? Or do you wait and risk a pricier price tag?
See, I'm normally, Zach, a glass half full guy, right? I'm an optimism guy. I'm a bank on the success aspect. But from a pragmatic perspective of running a business and football operations, I would prefer him being a little bit more expensive, relatively speaking. I mean, we're only talking about how a market shifts over 6 months, basically. I would rather take the risk of seeing his price increase by a percentage point or two than risk losing 50 million plus guaranteed, whatever it may be, on a guy who fails to live up to a second contract after a one-hit wonder, so to speak, if it were to become that. If I'm weighing those options. Now, that's not, just for what it's worth, guys, I'm not saying that that's what Nik Bonitto is. I'm stoked on Nik Bonitto. I do honestly believe he turned a corner, busted through a ceiling. But again, this is within the context of it's not just that he's the only guy this year that needs to be taken care of. It's several guys that are also crucial. And I would again argue Zach Allen, Cortland Sutton are more so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think that's why we're in agreement about Zach Allen, because if you pay him, you feel like it's more of a safe investment. It's not as high risk, high reward. And Scott pointed out correctly that 20 million for edge rushers would rank number 14 in the NFL. So again, that's not that much on an APY basis. Are you comfortable making Nik Bonitto the 14th highest edge rusher in the league right now? It's subjective. If the Broncos are, Chad, if they have any inclination toward making a deal, they should get it done now. But if they want to wait, they have that in their back pocket too.
It's fun. We'll see. Bob Morris had a great breakdown, though, on this subject today on, hey, not Nik Bonitto. He'll go through each one of these guys in a similar kind of deep dive. But as our resident cap kind of guru at MHH, Bob Morris had an analysis on Zach Allen today. Find it on the site, milehighhuddle.com. It's definitely worth your read because you will learn more about the lay of the land. It's one thing to hear, oh, he wants $25 million a year. What's the context of that relative to what kind of contracts were handed out in free agency this year? Who around the league at his position is making what? Kind of gives you a better idea of really what to expect from that situation. Let me see here what the Ronks drop in here. It says Sean Payton said getting rid of good NFL players, then they have success with other NFL teams. I mean, this year, Zach, if there's one guy that I harbor a little bit, I'll use it, I think, for the third time tonight, misgiving that might go bananas outside of Denver. It's Javonte Williams, only because of what George Payton said at the Combine, where he's like, we don't think he's actually returned. He's gonna, but he hasn't quite yet returned to full recovery from that brutal knee injury. Wouldn't surprise me to see him go down there and crush.
I think they drafted Jaden Blue, the speedy running back. So the seeing them side by side, Chad, how slow Javonte looked and how fast Blue looked, it should make for an interesting backfield. Though I can't recall another player the Broncos lost that I would worry about going on and having success. No. I really, and maybe Jerry Jeudy, Chad, is the only one in the last 5 years in that time frame to really have established success with another team. It's been that bad.
I mean, you could make an argument, shallow and thin though it may be, that Russ had success because he was the starting quarterback on a team that made the playoffs. I would argue against it. I'm just throwing it out there as devil's advocate. Phil saying if Bonitto is playing lights out midway, pay him and then save a few million maybe. That's all I'm saying, dude. I'd rather risk his price tag going up a hair and see if he's able to channel that momentum into the early portion of the 2025 schedule and then just have the framework already ready to go. If you see it, boom, get him signed, because you need the core guys. You need this era, this generation's Von Miller, even though Zach, he'd be a Von Miller light for sure.
It could 100% play out that way, Phil. They might just be patient with Bonitto and see if they can catch lightning in a bottle twice. But there's like a media campaign now, Chad. Have you seen this? I think you wrote about Trevor Price saying that the Broncos, did he make the argument they should pay him or not pay him?
Yeah, that was I want to say, was it Eric? I think Eric wrote that one up. Yeah. So former Broncos first round pick and all-pro Trevor Price, that was his argument. He told Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette, quote, he's going to ask for the bag and he deserves it. Sign Bonitto right now because the price is just going to go up. What are you waiting for? Him to get to 17 sacks? It's not like he's going to forget how to play football, close quote. So that was his comment to the Denver Gazette relative to Bonitto.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And also, DeMarcus Ware was talking up Nik Bonitto in an interview. I think it was with Kay Adams, where he compared Nik Bonitto to a combination of Von Miller and Shaq Barrett and advocated for the Broncos to pay Nik Bonitto. So they would have to resist a lot of outside pressure from very notable faces to not pay Nik Bonitto right now and wait. But we'll see how it shakes out.
That's interesting. I mean, hey, DeMarcus Ware is what he is, right? Hall of Fame pass rusher, legendary, also coached as a consultant. The Broncos, a lot of those guys, I can't remember if Shaq was still around, but I would say that Bonitto reminds me more of like Von Miller meets Shane Ray. That's more of
Mm.
what he reminds me of because he doesn't have that physical presence yet on the edge. He's still more of that speed guy. And, Eric brings up a good point in this article that references what Trevor Price said. And that is, let me see if I can find it, the specific number that the number of, let me see. Ooh, I'll come back to it. But the number of his sacks, how many? Oh, here it is.
The
Quote from
garbage
Eric,
time.
there's no doubt about Bonitto's skill set as a pass rusher, but 7 of his 13 and a half sacks, Zach, so half were in garbage time.
I don't know, man. Like you can, I guess, characterize some of the sacks that way. What I saw was Nik Bonitto single-handedly winning the Broncos 2 football games with his game-changing plays, Chad. The turnovers, the return touchdowns. He was a spark, the jolt that they needed to get them over that hump. So call it garbage time if you want, but sacks count all the same.
Agreed. And I would also argue that those 2 games, what were the games? Cleveland. What were the
Indy,
2? Indy and Cleveland. Do the Broncos win those games without him making those those defensive touchdown plays? Like, I'm
not
not
Cleveland.
sure.
No,
I don't think so.
not the
So
Cleveland game.
how much is a win? That'd be an interesting conversation. Like, how much is a win worth relative to salary cap dollars? Oh, single win. I guess you could just take the total salary cap and divide it by 17 or whatever. Say, here's what a win's worth. I don't know. But he definitely contributed, Zach, big time to that 10-win season. He was one of there were a few faces to the whole defying the odds makers and the expectations last year. He was, I mean, you and I, this time last year, we were more what we saw happen from Nik Bonitto, the way he turned that corner and became a force of nature and like a star in the NFL. We were expecting more of that coming from Baron Browning. He was gone.
Right.
They cut bait with him, traded him away. So very few people, even guys who we'll say are inclined to wear the orange and blue colored glasses at times, didn't see that happening, Zach. So props to him.
Chad, they might not have lost both of those games, but there's a good chance they might have lost one. And they're not making the playoffs at 9-8. They barely got in as it was. The Bengals were on their heels. The Dolphins were on their heels. So Nik Bonitto, you can make a legitimate argument. He single-handedly got the Broncos over the hump and into the postseason. He just has a knack for that, Chad, and you can't teach that. It's instinct.
Adam Strange, what the Sam Hill is a garbage time sack. So not a garbage sack, a garbage time sack. So we all know what garbage time is, right? And by the way, garbage time is not just end of the game, because sometimes the end of the game, it's tight. It's a close game. It kind of comes down to the last possession. That's not garbage time. A garbage time is when a team has, what would you say, Zach, 2-score lead with under half of the quarter to go, fourth quarter. What would you define as garbage time?
Like a 3-touchdown lead with like 4 minutes left. That's garbage time.
There you go. So, yeah, if half of his sacks came in those scenarios, that's also, by the way, worth something, because, again, what it shows is when the defense has done its job, the offense has done its job, it's put enough points on the board where the opponent's offense, Zach, has no choice but to just telegraph that we're throwing the ball, right? They're just shotgun, 11 personnel, blah, 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 blah. You need edge rushers who can feast in those situations. And that is one thing Bonitto did prove with consistency last year in obvious critical, not just critical, but also garbage time, obvious passing situations. He could cut the mustard.
And let's apply some logic here. The Broncos finished 10-7. They won more games than they lost. They were in more positive garbage time situations than they were negative. And you can make the case, if you go back and watch the film, that Nik Bonitto, before garbage time, got them to those positive garbage time situations, Chad. So his impact is immeasurable. And maybe we're on a different side of the fence here, but I think he's integral to what the Broncos want to do on the edge.
We'll see. I just think that interior presence from Allen, considering the depth they have at rush linebacker and the investments they have there in terms of the personnel, that's all I'm saying, is I think it takes a little bit more precedence, because if things ever went sideways with Bonitto, or he got hurt or whatever, you don't manage to get him extended, you do have a lot of guys in that room that could step up, and maybe they're not going to have that same penchant for the playmaking ability, but we'll see. Ralph says $279.2 million divided by 52 is $5.37 million per player. Thank you very much for that. So how do you what's the equation for what a win's worth relative to the salary cap, though? That's what I'm saying. Thank you, bro, Ralph, for checking in, big dog.
And the thing about the salary cap, I'm not saying, and I said it earlier tonight, in fact, that the Broncos more than likely can't keep everyone. By everyone, I mean Bonitto, Allen, Cortland Sutton, and JFM. But I saw, Chad, with my own eyes, the Kansas City Chiefs in one offseason re-signed Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones. There's ways to do it. You can find money, you can make cap room. It's easily finessable. So there is a definite path to re-signing both Zach Allen and Nik Bonitto. The question still remains, though, do they want to?
Indeed. Phil says, is it worth bringing in Julian Blackmon from Indy as insurance for an injury-prone Talanoa Hufanga? For what it's worth, a little backstory on Blackmon, originally out of University of Utah, was a third-round pick of the Colts in 2020, and no longer a Colt, Zach. So no accolades to speak of as a pro. But just last year, I'll just take a quick look. Let's see. He is 26. He's about to turn 27. Last year as a 16-game starter, so he was their free safety last year. He had 3 picks. Let's see, 86 tackles. That's pretty solid production, Zach, for a free safety. So what say you for Phil here?
It depends, Phil. Are you keeping PJ Locke? Because you're paying him, what is it, Chad? Over $3 million for his salary cap? I think it is $3-4 million. It's a lot for a third string, fourth string safety, which is what PJ Locke is now. So if you want to cut PJ and upgrade that spot and use that money to sign Blackmon, no problem. But as it stands, maybe give PJ Locke the chance only because you're paying him. Or I want to see, Chad, what's going on with DTY? What's going on with JL Skinner? They haven't shown anything the last couple seasons. It's put up or shut up time for those two now.
By the way, you were right on Locke. $3.5 million is his base salary, but when you factor in that 2-year extension he got last year, the signing bonuses, his actual cap number is $5.1 million this year. Oof. So that's you got to live up to that. If the Broncos do hold on to him, you got to extract some value from that. And I think in a perfect world, if Hufanga manages to stay healthy and your top 3 are Hufanga. I don't know, potato, Brandon Jones and PJ Locke. That's a pretty solid, Zach, top 3 safeties, and especially when you go into big nickel. But Blackmon's interesting. I don't think it's really that big of a freakazoid situation, Phil. I don't think the Broncos are all that worried about Talanoa's health at this point.
No, I mean, you could do a lot worse with that safety trio, Chad. And also maybe Zadeh. I got to train myself to say that first name.
It's so bizarre.
I guess correctly. He can play some safety. Riley Moss, you can experiment with him maybe a little bit at safety. So there's different in-house options. I don't know about going out of house to solve that. But hopefully we don't have this problem, and Hufanga, he stays healthy.
Potato. Check this out for Craps and Gigs. This is courtesy of Mr. Producer. The Denver Broncos, turns out, had the oldest draft class. So Chargers were ranked second. This is the 2025 NFL draft mean pick age on draft night. So Broncos, oldest. Chargers, let's see. Let me find KC. They're more like bottom third. So what does that mean, Zach, to you? Is the implication that the Broncos were focused on guys who spent most of their played out their college careers, team captains, lasting guys, or what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, they even talked about it themselves. They were looking for captains. They were looking for 4-year starters. They were looking for consistent players that weren't hopping in the transfer portal, Chad, every season. And I think the numbers might be skewed by RJ Harvey and a couple other selections, but who really cares as far as I'm concerned? Everyone else. We had to sit through everyone else trashing Bo Nix for being 24 when he was drafted. His age was suddenly a concern. Well, he played pretty damn good for a rookie, and he has a long future ahead of him. So if they can play, if they're going to make the Broncos a better team, I really don't care, Chad, if they're a little older than the norm. Plenty of 18, 19-year-olds, by the way, have busted in the NFL. You're muted.
My buttons weren't working. I'm laughing because Scott's going, had to be one of the highest last year with Bo Nix and a 32-year-old Vele. Oh, 25? 26, turning 27, actually, I think is what it was. But yeah, interesting stuff. I want to grab this from James Baker from Down Under. William James Baker saying, morning, guys, from Sydney. Checking in from Oz. Great to see you, buddy. Guys, would you sign Nick Chubb, the running back, or would you trade for a back like Kenneth Walker III to assist at running back? Can't see how we don't sign one. What say you, Zach?
I don't want to put words in your mouth, Chad, but I think you're more open to Nick Chubb than I am. I don't know how much he has left, and he'd be like Javonte Williams circa 2024. That's not what I'm looking for in my backfield. Walker is a great running back when he's healthy, very physical running back. I have no doubt he'd succeed in Sean Payton offense. The only problem with him is he's injured every year, and I know him because I have him in fantasy every single year. So you kind of made your bed with the runners you have. You drafted RJ Harvey. You still like McLaughlin. You still like Estime. I think, William, they're going to roll into training camp with who's on the team right now.
So I am definitely open to it. Do I feel like it's a dire sitch? No. But the Broncos really only have one power guy on the roster, and that is Audric Estime. We'll see, RJ is a lot thicker than people give him credit for. They look at the fact that he's 5'8", and they think that, he's diminutive, but he's not. He's well over 200 pounds. A guy like Jaleel McLaughlin, he's a little bit more diminutive in terms of that. But I wanted to just real quick before we grab this from DJ Capo on the subject of Nick Chubb. So here's some food for thought for those who might be pining for him. So he suffered an MCL and a damaged ACL in September of 2023, and subsequently started off the following season on the PUP list. He would then, Zach, go on to appear in just 8 games for the Browns, rushing for 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, with a career low average of 3.3 yards per carry. But here's what's crazy, dude. He never averaged below, before that injury, including the season 2023 before he got hurt, which was granted, Zach, only 2 games. Pre-2024 and that knee injury, his career low yards per carry was 5 yards. Year 1, 5.2. Year 2, 5.0. 3, 5.6. Year 4, 5.5. 22. So year 5, 5.0. And then 2023, granted, only 2 games, 6.1. So a 2 yards per carry drop-off basically is what it amounts to. It was his career average before 2024 was a 5.5 yards per carry average. And now it's at 3.3. So that's what's scaring teams. DJ Capel, what's up, brother? Says, I wouldn't, and thank you for the super chat. I wouldn't pay Nik Bonitto off of one season. He just fell in on a new scheme that we ran last year, and he definitely can be replaced. Let's not forget, everybody was just saying to trade him in 2023. Nope. Zach Allen and Cortland Sutton. So, yeah, and this is essentially DJ's being a little bit more on the nose with this, but that's basically my outlook is I want to just see him do it one more time, or at least show signs through a new season that he's momentum carrying over, and then roll it out, dude. Roll out the Brinks truck. I'm cool with it. We'll see how the Broncos approach it.
Listen, it's not our money, Chad. If they want to wait and he gets more expensive and they still want to sign him, that's their prerogative. I don't know how tenable it is to make everyone on defense the highest paid or one of the highest paid of their positions. PS2, Zach Allen wants 25 a year. You might bring back JFM. I mean, there's a lot of money to be spread around, and I don't know how they're going to allocate it.
All right, Keith's jumping in to say Barry Sanders was 5'8" and 205 pounds. Not comparing, just saying. Yeah, exactly, dude. And I would say, too, that, like, the way RJ is built, he looks a lot thicker, muscled than Barry was back then. But there was also, Zach, an interesting question that I had it up earlier, but I got to find it right here. Who was the bigger surprise to you last year, Zach? Nik Bonitto or Riley Moss?
Oh, Bonitto, man. Like, he went from Chad. I mean, maybe my own bias or whatever, my own apprehensions. He went from, like you said, being stuck behind Baron Browning on the depth chart and being forgotten about as a second round pick to becoming a second team All Pro, Pro Bowl starter, third in the league, I think it was, in sacks, 2 game winning, game changing plays. Riley Moss played outstanding before his injury, Keith, but Nik Bonitto was on a whole different level in 2024.
Yeah, so Bonitto finished third behind Hendrickson and Miles Garrett. So 13 and a half. The league leader was Hendrickson with 17 and a half for what it's worth. But Moss is another one of those guys. When you talk about the reasons the Broncos defied expectations and went on and won double-digit games, Moss is another one of those faces that wasn't able to contribute, or at least didn't contribute at the level that he did the year prior. And this, again, Zach, is credit to Sean Payton and his entire staff, because the faces that emerged out of the mist, that guys like us and fans, sure, we had hopes, but like genuine bona fide expectations, no. But all of a sudden, guys like Bonitto, Moss turning a corner, Marvin Mims, albeit down the stretch, second half of the season, exploding, becoming bona fide game-changing caliber playmakers. And of course, he always has been that as a returner, but I'm talking about offense. It's a credit to Sean Payton and his staff, man. They have a great coaching staff, and it's headed by, the uber confident, self-assured, long-winded, overly verbose, loves the sound of his own voice, Sean Payton.
That's why part of their success was having such an elite defense, Chad, leading the league in sacks. And at one point before Moss's injury, they were among the leaders in pass defense. So we have to hope that can play itself out again. And if it does, it's a win-win. If you have to pay Nik Bonitto, if you wait and then you have to pay him, it means that he had another Pro Bowl season, and we'd all sign up for that.
Keith brings up, hey, if Courtland Sutton gets 1,000 yards this season, it'll only be the third time in his career. Yeah, because you got to wind it back and put it in context. Year one, he's literally battling with Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. He ends up winning those battles. Both of them, in one form or another, are jettisoned. RIP to DT. Year two is when he explodes, right? Those guys are both gone. Sutton is the guy. He goes for 1,206 tutties, gets a Pro Bowl nod, catching passes from 3 different starting quarterbacks. Then, Zach, the future has arrived. After winning 4 of his 5 starts to end the 2019 season, which was Sutton's Pro Bowl season, Drew Lock is going to come in and be the guy. No more Mile High Joe Flacco, no more Brandon Allen, nobody. It's the Drew Lock show, and what happens? Sutton gets hurt week 2, done for the year. Fast forward to the next year, he returns, but it's classic first year back from a knee tear, 700 some odd yards, something like that. That was 2021. 2022, Zach, Russ arrives, and it's more of the same, kind of 700, 800 the next 2 years. It took the quarterback to finally unlock Sutton and bring him back to where he ought to be, which is, again, more, it's apocryphal, but it goes to show you the truth behind the maxim that a franchise quarterback, Zach, is the tide that raises all ships.
And Keith, looking at 1,000 yards as a barometer, I don't know how much stock to put in that. If you hash it out over 17 games, it's like, 56 yards a game? I don't math very well, but something like that. So it's in terms of the impact he brings on a down by down or game by game basis. If he can make a clutch catch on third down to extend a drive or score a touchdown in the fourth quarter in the red zone, that's extreme value. He does things that other players on the roster can't. And in conjunction with who else they brought in, Chad, you mentioned Marvin Mims, but also Evan Ingram, RJ Harvey now. Bo Nix has a lot of diversity of weapons with which to work, and it's going to make Sutton a better player too as a result.
And he's got Sean Payton calling the plays and game planning it up, and it's a very compelling recipe. And I think it was Keith Cummings. Zach had an article yesterday, might have been, I think it was yesterday, coming from Ian Eagle, right? The legendary CBS play-by-play guy, who kind of showcased how the wider perspective on the Broncos in the national press is changing. This is what Eagle said in an appearance on 104.3 The Fan, local Denver radio. He said, I'd tell you that there is a lot of positive energy in the offseason from a national perspective with Denver, that they can take the next step. And he goes on to say, quote, for the Broncos, it was really a starting point, talking about early last season, because he called that Jets game, Zach, where it was torrential downpour. Bo Nix passes for only 60 yards, but the Broncos win by 1 point. So he goes on to say, quote, for the Broncos, it was really a starting point. I just saw a confident quarterback. I think there's a belief within that team, and there's certainly a belief with Sean Payton that the guy knows how to win, knows how to run a program. He's a problem solver. He'll figure it out. He'll do it in his way. By the way, he's not going to change for anybody. He's going to do it the way that he does it, close quote. And then one last thing he said, quote, I'm just really impressed with how Nick's carried himself throughout the season. Obviously, the connection between Peyton and Nick's, you could feel the trust level. I had them in that Jets game early in the season when Peyton, in our CBS production meeting, basically went on to say, no, this guy's the guy, and we know it. And it was still when the stats weren't backing up all of the plaudits, close quote. So on top of, Zach, what the Broncos have done this offseason and what they accomplished last year, it's slowly turning. But the perspective on the Broncos, I don't think they're really going to emerge from this summer and this offseason as a sleeper.
No, I mean, even with the fan duels out there, negating what Bo Nix did, the power rankings listing the Broncos or Bo Nix low, or these other predictions, like ESPN recently projected that Bo Nix would throw for less yards and touchdowns than he did as a rookie, despite having a better supporting cast. I think those who know, and the smart ones realize that the Broncos are on the extreme ascension, and they're going to be better than 10-7 this season.
We shall see. Guys, we are at the 2-minute warning. Any burning questions, topics, supers, get them in the chat. We got the Ronk saying, great show tonight, Chad and Zach, on the Mile High Huddle podcast. Go Bo Broncos. Thank you, pal. Your support means the world to us, and we appreciate each and every one of you that has been in the house with us tonight. Doing pretty good, I think, for week into May, Zach, but we got a few messages for you. Don't leave, because I'm going to take one last peek at the chat, see if there's anything interesting we might have missed that we haven't already covered. Don't leave quite yet.
Tremendous episode, as always, of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on X at Mile High Huddle. Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you want some merch like we're rocking each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. If you haven't done so yet, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, very important, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
So the Broncos get the NFC East this year, right, on the schedule. So that's Washington, Dallas, Giants, Philly. Rock's saying, hey, dude, week 1, give us Daniels versus Knicks to open the season. You don't like it, Zach?
No, you mentioned it. I want Russell Wilson. I want the New York Giants week 1, Chad. That game is in Denver. Russ kind of, snuck out of the Pittsburgh game last year with that calf injury. He's going to be the starter unless Jackson Dart takes over. I want Russ in week 1. I want vengeance.
I also want to grab this from Ronk, who said later, the Broncos, when we were talking about from Keith, Sutton and the 1,000 yards thing, Broncos need their first 1,000-yard rusher rather than a 1,000-yard receiver. And I wouldn't get my hopes up too much on that front. Again, we'll see how much touch share RJ Harvey is given in this offense as the projected RB1, but you got to go back a ways for the last time a Sean Payton, as great and prolific as these backs are. I mean, when we were talking about during the football season, you guys can remember there was a brief little window where Alvin Kamara trade rumors right before the window closed, and would he end up in Denver? And much to my surprise, not being a super Saints stat nerd, Zach, we looked it up and he'd never broken 1,000 yards as a rusher. And yet he's known as one of the superstars at the position, right? And accolades and all that. So in Sean Payton's offense, what I'm getting at here, Zach, the way he goes kind of by committee, even as the RB1 and an RB2, you're going to see 3 running backs on the field every single game to a lesser or greater degree. The touch share percentage will shift, but as long as it's all adding up to what would equate to a really good rushing offense, that's all that matters.
I did some research the other day on this. The Broncos haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2019. That'd be Philip Lindsay. They haven't had a 100-yard single-game rusher in 2 years since Latavius Murray in 2023. They haven't had a tight end go over 100 yards receiving, Chad, in a game since 2019. Can you name the tight end?
2019?
Yep.
Was it Noah Fant?
It was. Pretty
I mean,
sad.
Yes, it is. But the times they are a-changing, I'm telling you. Ronk says Peyton Manning, Broncos versus Eli Manning Giants on Monday Night Football. Yeah, that could be fun. We'll see. We'll see. One last thing. I want to grab this from T-Fish is where are the meet and greets at? So we hold them at the stadium right outside Lot D. Year in, year out, we're out in the tailgate section. You could throw a rock almost and hit the stadium. So we're just right there. We're in the greater parking lot. And so that's where it's at. When the schedule comes out, we'll finish putting our plans together and let everybody know when. But it's going to be the first quarter of the season while the weather's still nice.
Yeah, T, can't wait to see you out there. Hopefully, we'll have more information when the schedule gets released next week.
All right, guys, a mile-high salute and a special shout-out to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters helping us keep the lights on. Tonight, like David Yunkin with multiple supers, the Papa Bear, David McElrath, Sam Bam leading the way with a very generous super tonight. Zeus McPeak in the house. The Ronk checking in multiple times. Taylor Christensen, Jimmy Thielen, Casey Nickel in the hizzy, Phil McLaughlin a few times, DJ Capo, and love you guys. Seriously, thank you so much. Zach and I are off until Sunday night, but there'll be plenty of content coming down the pike. Even though it's the off season, as you guys know, we still go 7 nights a week, and we have a blast every second of it. So we'll look forward to seeing you on our end anyway, Sunday night.
Have a great rest of your Thursday. Great start to your weekend. We'll see you Sunday night. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.